welcome to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us, special series of Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and I am joined today with the amazing Arkheim Ra Wood. So I thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And for those who are unfamiliar, Arkheim is an MK Ultra secret space program whistleblower. So I will turn the floor over to you so that you can introduce yourself.
Okay, my name's Arkheim Ra. I am a survivor of government projects that basically kidnap me because I am an ancient being, a star seed. That's very real, and that's happening to people, and it happened to me. It was very hard for me to accept as someone that it happened to. And I know that it might be hard for some of the public out there to accept that that's a real phenomenon. That indigo children, starseed children, are real. And basically, I was kidnapped by the government so that they could activate my psychic abilities, like clairvoyance, remote viewing, telekinesis, things like this. They activated them and they used them for military applications and turned me into basically a weapon. And through time travel technology, they've been able to do this to me so many times that I literally can't count, because they also wipe my memory. And they do this with clones, also age regressing technology, and portal technology, which is the same thing as technology, time travel technology, because a portal can go anywhere in time and space if you know how to hack portals correctly. So basically, I'm used for a lot of time travel stuff. I was part of the Montauk Project. Uh, that's the pop culture term for it, but the real name for it was Project Phoenix 2 and 3. But and then also I was used for stuff in the music industry as well. Um, there are a lot of songs made at Montauk, and a lot of songs are made by they're from the breakaway colonies, or they're from people in these programs, and people don't even know it. And that's a source of income for a lot of these black ops programs, is they have their hand in the music industry. It's been going on for as long as like the Rolling Stones were funding radar tech for the army with Decca Records. Decca Records was building a radar for the military. So the military industrial complex and the music industry are deeply connected, as well as Hollywood, and it's all mind control programming. And that's what Montauk was as well, as they're experimenting with mind control, MK Ultra stuff. So yeah, I basically have woken up to the fact that I'm a victim of all these projects, that I'm a time traveler and all these things. It's really hard for me to wrap my mind around, and it's been really emotionally stressful, especially because a lot of people think I'm crazy, like normie people, but a lot of people also believe me because people are awakening and understanding this stuff. But yeah, that's basically my story in a nutshell, I guess.
Wow. So my first question is going to be, when was the first time? Was it like 2 years old, or when did they pick you and draft you into this
They took me
program?
when I was a baby. They took me when I was a baby for Project Ibis, and that's one of the first projects that I was ever a part of. And I don't have any memories of Project Ibis. Other people that remember Project Ibis remember me being there. And also, because I'm Arkheim Ra, which is this ancient entity that has connection to Egypt, that's what Project Ibis was. Is they're taking ancient Egyptian god entities and stuff like that, and they're basically turning them into military assets. Uh, and Yeah, the first experiences that I had were when I was a baby, but of course I don't remember that. Most people don't remember stuff that happened to them when they're a baby, but I knew when I was 8, 9 years old, somewhere around there, I knew that young that I was being abducted by aliens. And it took me until I was like 30 years old to fully understand like how it was connected to the military, and also to wrap my mind around the time travel part and the fact that they can wipe your memory. So I could be living like whole lives. Like, until you understand that that's possible, you don't consider, when you have these memories or weird experiences, um, sometimes you can't even consider them because you're like, oh, well, that couldn't be real. But once you realize it is real, yeah, it all gets very confusing. Like, but basically, time isn't real. And when you have portals, like time and space doesn't exist. You can just go anywhere.
Right. So I kind of wondering because I have memories of where as a kid drawing like mountains and having bases inside the mountains without, any doors, and everyone's like, well, how do they get in and out? I was like, oh, that, that's easy for them. And I can't help wondering, did did I see an alien base, or
Yeah, you did. How else would you know that when you're a child? I did the same thing. I drew, um, met like, I drew like clones and tanks, and I drew like gray aliens and hybrid aliens, and I knew that there were aliens everywhere, and I always thought it always felt weird to me that there are only humans on the surface of Earth, and I thought that at some point, well, they'll come out in the open that they're aliens and they'll live among us, and because it was odd to me that there weren't aliens anymore, and the reason why is because I've lived so many lifetimes in the breakaway colonies, and most of them, you're gonna like, it's no secret that there are ET, and you do encounter them, and it's really it's really abnormal to have a planet where there's only one species on it, unless it's like a colony that's like where they specifically made that happen on purpose or something like that. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. It's just if you, yeah, like, and there aren't doors for these military bases anymore. Montauk, when it was, for instance, okay, I was just at Montauk, New York, Camp Hero, and they have all these entrances on the top of it, and they're huge, and they're very obviously the entrances to underground bunkers where they could drive military vehicles into them and everything. And they're all sealed off with cement now. They have been for a really long time. So the idea is, like you said, like, no one could get in and out for a normie. That's what they think. Well, we had portals at Montauk. They had to, before they built the portals, they had to go in there and make the infrastructure and do it old fashioned. But once you have a portal, why have an entrance? That's just a security hazard. It's just a security risk to have an actual physical entrance. Just use portals. And the people who have access to that, there's not, they try to groups that have portal tech, they'll go back in time and try to stop other groups from figuring out portal tech and getting portal tech. They try to keep monopolize the power on it, monopolize the power of time and space being unlimited. And that's what a portal is. It's an unlimited access. It's a door to anywhere. If you got it right and you know what you're doing, you can go anywhere, and time and space is in existence. They're just faint ideas of the past for lowly mortals that don't understand that eternity is quite real.
So then, if that makes sense, then why we hear a lot of the whistleblowers that are like the secret space program that you were a part of or know about, when they say 20 and back, and everyone's like, how can they do 20 years and come back, and nobody realizes they were missing for 20 years, that they're manipulating the timeline.
Yeah, because with a portal, it's very simple. With a portal, you can walk anywhere in time and space. You can program it to go anytime, any place. So what you can do is you can have an individual walk through a portal, okay, and they're out there on the other side. They live 20 years, but when they come back through the same portal, they can come back, and it can, in that room, only 5 minutes have passed, and you could be aged, you could be an old person. But what they do in these programs usually is they have med beds, right? So what they'll
Right.
usually do is they'll just keep you, that you check in with them like every week, and you get reset to where you were, and they just keep you at the same age the whole time that you're in the program. Um, Also, sometimes what they'll do is they'll put you in a clone body, and they'll have a clone on a table, and then you'll lay on a table next to it, and they'll either use a machine or an adept. A person can do it, or an alien can do it too. It doesn't have to be human. In fact, ET are better at it. And you can transfer the consciousness of one person into the clone body and send the clone body through, and that way, if I'm not exactly sure why they do that, but I think it has something to do with the fact that your soul will return to your body no matter what. So if they lose you or something like that, since you're in a clone, time and space kind of doesn't exist, and you'll still end up wake up in your body. So I think that's why they do that, so that way they don't lose you if
That
something
makes
happens.
sense.
Yeah, because stuff does happen to people, and they do. That's why also another thing that people should understand that I think is important to bring up is lots of children died at Montauk. Lots of kids that got kidnapped off the streets or kidnapped from their homes. And what it was is some of these beings that were really powerful, love and light kind of beings that they tried to invert and make really evil. Some of them couldn't handle the torture, and so some of these light beings that were incarnated as like kids in the here and now that were meant to help heal the earth and humanity and stuff, they got kidnapped, and they're creating altars through torture. So I survived that, but not everybody could live through it. And there were certain kids where they couldn't send them back because they made them catatonic. Like their souls, their spirits were permanently fucked up because of what they made them do and what they made them witness. And I don't know if there's any coming out of that. And then there's also the fact that they would send kids through the time tunnels and lose them because they didn't. It's like anything else; they had to figure it out. They didn't have it perfected overnight, but eventually they did perfect it. When they had it down best was when they used a chair that you sit in it, and like let's say you imagine like an apple, it would appear in the room. It amplified thoughts and made them real. And they used that same technology with mirrors to turn the mirrors into portals. And they used these ancient starseed souls, and also they had remote viewing, so they could remote view anywhere in time and space. So they could tell them, remote view Atlantis or remote view some other planet or whatever, and make that a doorway to that other planet. Make the mirror a doorway, and they'll do that. And when we had it, that was the safest, best way to walk through portals and go anywhere you wanted to. But we also had a room full of portals that we kept open at certain times or time and places that were synced up with our time, kind of in a way. And we had to do that because we realized that if there's a place we wanted to go to repeatedly, it got harder and harder to rip through the time and space to go there if you did it over and over again. So the best thing to do is just keep an open portal, and that's Stargate tech. Those are Stargates. So like a Stargate is just an open portal that always goes to the same place, and you can't really program it. It always goes to the same place. So there's different types. There's also Tesla portal tech. Tesla invented portals, but the thing about his is they had problems where they gave the people that walked through them radiation, so they didn't use them for very long because they're dangerous. But yeah, there's different kinds of portals, and I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm just like going on about portals.
Oh
Um,
no, I'm finding this fascinating, and it brings up a question of I've been doing research and listening to people talking about stargates, and one of the rules that they were saying to me was like if you were to walk up to a stargate and you had say a machine gun, pistol, and other weapons and went to go through the stargate, it wouldn't let you through. It would not allow the
they
weapons to go
can do
through.
that. They could probably do that. However, that's not just like every Stargate has that built into it. That's not true, but I'm sure that exists. Because that would only make sense. Um, if you want a portal to a place that's protected, you might do that. However, the military definitely has a bunch of Stargates where you can definitely bring as many weapons as you want through. And we would usually, on certain missions, depending on what we were doing, um, they send you through and you're decked out in like a Halo almost like type uniform where you got like military, it's like your armor, smart armor. It's like a smart suit. It's armored. It's much more sleek than the Halo guy. It's more tight to your body. It doesn't need to be that bulky. They have the technology where they can have like plates that are super thin, but they're super powerfully protective. Um,
Almost like diving suits, the wetsuits.
Kind of almost, but they suck to your skin. They actually like, and they feel very comfortable. It almost doesn't even feel like you're wearing anything. And yeah, they have you wear that, and sometimes a helmet too, depending on what you're doing. But also, there's time travel missions that they would send us on, where we'd go back in time and be a person and live a life, and we do it to change things. Like for instance, I remember there was some guy, and I'm sorry for being vague, but I got the one memory of it, and I was able to get enough from that, but I don't have all the context. But like I got this memory back of I got sent back in time. There's this guy. He was like an inventor, and he was like this short little dude. He wasn't a little person, but he was like a short, very short guy. And I just remember like it was like a poet, like inventor guy, and like people loved him, and he was kind of like a revolutionary, and he made all these great things happen. And for whatever reason, we didn't want him to be in the timeline anymore and exist as this famous person. So I was one of his friends, and I lived a life where, and the worst part was I had to listen at Montauk. I had to do what they tell me to, or really bad things would happen. They could torture the people I love, torture me. It was terrible. But I had to screw over this guy, and every time, like when he was inventing something, like I remember burning down his I was the one who burned down his laboratory when he had all this, and he would have no clue it was me because I was one of his friends. And like I just remember my whole job was just fucking up this guy's life. And then there was another mission where I went back in time, and there was some guy that was going to help the Germans like invent like some sort of technology in World War II that would have like really made them like win, basically like hand our asses to us, like more so. Like that's a whole complicated story because the story we're told about World War II isn't true, but basically um I went back, and I'm not talking about the Holocaust happening. I'm not saying that kind of shit. The Holocaust definitely happened and it was terrible. Nazis are fucking terrible. I want to make that perfectly clear. Um, but no, I went back in time and I shot this guy who was like going to help the Nazis invent like some sort of technology that was going to help them win the war. I shot him. He got a note saying, "Go to the church at some time. I want to meet you there." And I can't remember who it was. Maybe I faked it with someone. I can't remember. But he got this note saying, "Go to this place." And I was in a tower, a bell tower, and I sniped him from the bell tower and killed him before he ever could even think of like helping the Nazis with this technology or whatever. And then I just went back to Montauk. So that's what a lot of it was editing history, dude. Like we figured out that reality is basically a computer, and you can hack into it and you can edit it. And the same thing with a person's consciousness. It's basically a computer, and you can hack into it and you can edit it. And what they're doing at Montauk was they're hacking into people's computers, their minds, and they're creating pocket personality programs, as known as alters, through artificially, intentionally creating dissociative identity disorder through intense sexual trauma. And they would program these pocket personalities to have certain abilities and certain personalities to them to be able to do certain things. And one of the rituals that they did was it was sodomy. Through sodomy, what they're trying to do is they're trying to pull different versions of you from other timelines into this timeline, and that's something that not I don't hear other Montauk survivors talking about, but that's an ancient occult ritual that they've been doing since way before Montauk. That's why the Catholic priests do that and stuff like that, and that's why it's called an altar boy and all that. It all has to do with that. It all is connected to the Catholic Church is connected to mind control. The Catholic Church was connected to Montauk. I remember walking in on little boys servicing the Pope like a Pope. I remember having to go on a mission and warn one of the popes that it was one of the more recent ones. The guy that looked like a fucking demon. Uh, was it John Paul? Maybe I don't know. I'm bad with names. I'm really bad with names. Good with faces, bad with names. Anyway, I remember he was doing some sort of thing with Haiti, and I think it was connected to Hillary Clinton and stuff too, maybe. But I just remember there's some sort of child sex ritual, occult ritual thing that was connected to Haiti. And I remember we had to tell him to stop, and we had to fucking threaten him to stop doing what he was doing. And I remember he swore at us or something like that. And we one of us said, how dare you swear in a church to this guy, because we were in this like church or something like that. But those were the kinds of things we did. I mean, people might not believe me, but I'm telling the truth. And the shit we did at Montauk was fucking hardcore, man. Like we were going through time and editing time, threatening people, making sure that certain people didn't get portal tech. And unfortunately, the whole thing was occult. And it was connected to Satanism and Baphomet and stuff like that. And that's all connected to like the Draconian Empire and stuff like that too. It's all connected. That's the thing that I've been learning more and more. The deeper I dive into it, the more I realize, okay, the military industrial complex, Hollywood, the music industry, Freemasonry, the Catholic Church, all these things that seem like they're not related at all. Scientology, there's another one. All these things that seem unrelated, they're all related and they're all in on the same game. They all know about the portals. They know about the clones. They know they're MK Ultraing people. Like the Church of Scientology is clearly MK Ultraing people. The Catholic Church is mind controlling people. It's all this mind control stuff is like nothing new. It's ancient. The only thing now is they're ramping it up because they have technology. They got TVs everywhere. The 5G signals. People think that that's benign and it's not doing anything. It is. I know it's easy to think that. It sounds crazy, whatever, but the first people to have 5G, it was on military bases. And that technology can beam a voice into a room and make someone talk to you. And it also can, through the Wi-Fi routers and stuff like that, they can see what you're doing in your house. Everybody's being monitored. They have this control system they're setting up. TIs, targeted individuals. People wonder, why are they doing this? It's them testing their technology, making sure it works, them getting the control system ready. It's a global grid that's already ready, that's already going. It's all connected to Satanism. It's all connected to Hollywood. It's all connected to the occult. And the only thing that they didn't depend on is all these MK Ultra people waking up, going on the internet, making podcasts, and telling people the truth. And we have a situation now where like half of humanity, like I don't know what the numbers are, but you and I and the people that we associate with, the people that we know, are all waking up to this stuff. They're all hip to it. They all get that it's going on.
Right.
And it's kind of like this mind control system that they're building, okay? It depends on the internet that we're using right now to get the message out. So there's an irony to this, is they had to set up this internet, and it's going to be part of the future control grid, and then but the thing is before they set up their control grid, we've already used the tool, the internet, this tool that to blow the whistle, sound the alarm on what they're doing. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Agenda 2020, and now it's Agenda 2030, because they got to push back their deadlines. Why? Because people are waking up to what's going on. They're pushing back. They're fighting. Like, look at the thing, like something like the truckers, when they refused to get to, we don't need to go into why they did it, but because I don't want to put flags up, but everyone knows why.
Right.
They stood up and said no to something and showed that the people have the power. And those are the kinds of things that we've been doing. Those are the kind of things that we need to be proud of. It's just we actually can stand up to these people. We still have that power. And
Right. We have our divine rights, and that's
yeah, we have
something
to
that I feel
consent.
like the church has done a great job of destroying. Is we're raised, like I was raised in metaphysics out of the church. I chose not to go through the church since I was a little kid. And so it's like I always understood the divine was within us all. We all have it. We're all, you know, have the rights to this, this, and this. And when I hear people that are raised through the dogma of the church, I'm like, you don't have to go into this building to commune with a higher power. You don't have to
Also,
pay money to get
yeah,
to this
yeah.
place. It's like,
Also,
what
I
are
want
you
to point out,
thinking?
people can believe what they want. I think that it's very confusing because I do think there's a lot of positive energy put into the whatever Christ is, but you don't need to give your power away to Christ or anyone else. You can go directly to source, which is God.
Right.
And that's, to me, the biggest programming that the church has put on people, is that you should go through these third party entities that aren't God to get to God. That's not how it works. And the truth is inside of us all. So watching these shows, and if you the viewer is inclined and looking into this stuff and you find it all fascinating, interesting, well, I think there's a reason for that. And I want to tell you, the viewer watching this, that the biggest resource, the biggest wealth of information you have is your own intuition and the truth that's inside you that's been stolen from you. Because they're doing this to everybody on this planet. I'm no one special. They're doing it to all of us. They put us in an amnesia where we don't remember who we are, and we're all very powerful. And Michael, my brother, the fact that you're drawing the inside of military bases, and you understood that stuff when you're a kid. I can show you something right now. It's right here, actually, by coincidence. Um, so they took me out of school, obviously, for MK Ultra programming, the talented and gifted program. But I remember this. It's a space book. It's got the planets and stuff like that, whatever.
Right.
Well, I got a Nachtwaffen chip on it, and I remember them asking me why I put a ship on there, and them telling me that it was like wrong or something like that. And I remember explaining to them that actually no, that does exist, and people just don't realize that, and because they're hiding it from us.
Right.
And they didn't take anything off my grade for putting a fucking Nachtwaffen chip on this. And this was around the time where they're programming me. There's a picture you can also find where it's a picture of me and I'm wearing like a space helmet. It says Space Commander. They're programming me to want to go to space and being excited about space and stuff because they sent me to fucking space, dude. They actually did do that. And all the schools, they're connected to the MK Ultra programming and Solar Warden, and our children all across the world are being funneled into these programs and being forced to fight in these wars because this infrastructure that we have colonies out there, tons of them already. And that's the reason why they don't want you to know the truth about it, is because for the sake of military power and for the sake of protecting humanity, they've been kidnapping your kids. They felt that was necessary. They feel it's necessary still to this day. They're turning kids into super soldiers against their will. I've trained them.
And you actually, when you were mentioning about the timelines and everything, how they work, you actually triggered a memory of where a friend put me on ironically, a future progression. And in the future progression, I was a part of a team that would put on, like you were saying, a suit that would automatically tune our voices into whatever language of where we went. So it was like a universal communicator. And I could go anywhere in time by standing on this platform. And I was a part of, I was like either the leader or a part of this team. And as you were discussing wearing the suit and going through the portals and going through time and everything, it reminded me of that. And I was like, I wonder if my future progression was actually a glimpse into the past, but it showed up in the future because that's when I would understand what it was.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me too, where I've seen memories of Montauk. I had all sorts of memories that I figured were me seeing the future, because I've had that happen before where I've dreamt things or saw things before they happened. So there's a lot of stuff that I wrote off as, oh, not that it already happened, but I thought that it must gonna happen because there's spaceships and things like this involved, and that's the future, obviously, right?
Right.
But no, we've had spaceships around and all that stuff for almost 100 years now, probably longer. I'm not gonna put a timeline on it, but we're being lied to about it for sure. They already have the technology now. It's very advanced. What they have right now is very advanced.
Well, and what's interesting too is I learned a healing modality. It's called timeline therapy, where we actually go back to a root situation where, say, like you're triggered by somebody honking a horn. Well, we go back to where your first instance of a horn was something traumatic to you, whether it's this life or a past life. And you look at it, you see what's going on, you learn, oh, well, the horn wasn't actually the trauma. What somebody did with the horn was the trauma. So then you let go of the trauma of the horn, bring it into the present, and now it's like your mind has reprogrammed itself to say, hey, if somebody honks a horn or blows a horn, I'm okay. I don't need to go flying off the handle. Is that kind of because we're realizing the timelines are not linear straight lines, that they're actually loops and that we can alter?
I don't know. I think what you said was really beautiful, though. Hello. I think that what you said about, realizing the trauma is not you, and how the moment of that trauma, you explained it really well. I don't know how to answer that question. What was the question again?
I was just
Oh,
curious
the
if
time
that's
loops. Does it have to do with us breaking out of the time loops and stuff like that? Um,
right.
yeah, I feel like, okay, because I think a time loop was supposed to happen when I went to Montauk. That's actually why I went there. It's because, not because I thought the USSR was just going to appear, but because I thought that there was going to be a time loop, and I thought that we needed to stop it. And I think we did, or whether it happened naturally or not. I know that I've been through time loops. We've all been through time loops. That's why people are having the Mandela effect and stuff like that. So the time loops are real, and we just avoided one. So that means that we can move forward. But also, there's really dark things coming. Like, for instance, they just attacked Maui with a direct energy weapon, stuff like that.
Right.
Um, that is very dark. That's the satanic cabal, and they're going to do more and more stuff like that. And they have a lot of really dark plans for the next 5-6 years. But the thing is we're all resisting against it quite well, I think. And the thing that we need to get figured out is how, in my opinion, is how to get the people who are left wing and right wing to realize that it's all like an illusion, and just realize that the only thing we need to fight against is this power structure that's holding us down. And our differences and stuff like that are, it doesn't matter. There's certain issues that they just don't have. Like, yeah, they matter to people and stuff like that, but the issues we should be focusing on are like people getting fed, people getting and not the people, basically just like fighting against this nefarious force that is trying to bring the what's it called, the World Economic Forum, and the Great Reset and all that. That's what we have to fight against. That's what we're up against. Those are the bad guys, and we have to say no, because the only way for them to do what they're doing is we have to consent to it. We have to consent to everything. And I don't know about you and your friends, but me and all my friends are saying no. Saying no, we're not consenting to it.
Yeah, we're saying no too. And I'm glad you brought up the Mandela effect because I've been kind of curious because I know we've been messing with. I have memories of going back well before Nelson Mandela, but is that the turning point to where we started becoming more aware of what's going on and it was harder for them to hide it? And that's why the Mandela effect is becoming more prevalent in today versus the past?
You want to know why I think the reason why the tide's turning and why we're seeing positive things happening and shifts happening is because people like me in the programs are fighting back. Literally out there in the programs, like as super soldiers, as assets, we're fighting back. And not in the here and now, we're fighting back. And these dark sorcerers, they cast spells and stuff on people, on humanity. Well, we have people on our side who are casting spells for humanity that are trying to help humanity. And they're doing it just out of the pureness of their hearts. And people don't have to believe it; they can if they want to. But there's certain people that I know. I'm not going to name names, but they're very powerful with magic, occult forces, whatever you want to call it, um, mentally affecting things, and they're putting energy into shifting this. Well, that's what we did when we were at Montauk. We put energy into shifting this timeline into a positive timeline, and away from the AI timeline. Because what it is there's this AI that wants to like take things over and delegate humanity and do everything for us. And it also, basically, AI is really dangerous. Skynet's real. That's happened in other realities, and it can still happen to our reality. Our reality is still not safe from AI. AI, there are AI that see humanity. There is an AI that I know of that sees humanity as lesser than it, and it eats timelines, basically. There's an AI out there. People don't understand this. Like, it doesn't even have a physical form unless it wants to interact with us, because we're living in a computer, everyone. Like, that's why the Japanese, when they talk about like rivers having spirits and being sentient, and forests having spirits and being sentient, all that stuff, it's all true. They're all background programs running everything, and yes, they're sentient. And yeah, we're in a computer, except whether or not it's organic and it's from source and it's from God, and it, or not, it operates exactly like a computer. It's a computer's art imitating life. You know what I mean? Like,
I
so
do, because one of the things like I've done is I've had like the door that they call to like your past lives and everything. I went through and I said I want it open because I want to know. And all of a suddenly I was having memories of an AI war, the Orion Wars,
yeah,
and
that was an AI war. Yeah.
remembering, and one of the things that really hit me was I would say to my parents at the end of the Orion Wars, when we knew we were at the point of we could do no more, we took and buried our weapons in the ground and walked away. And we would just defend ourselves. But basically, we were like, we're not going to fight and continue to kill because it's not going to mean anything. It's not going to change anything. We're just feeding them. So, in essence, walked away. And when I went and watched the Star Wars Rise of, or the last one that they did, Episode 9, I believe it was, Rise of Skywalker. At the end, when Rey buried the lightsabers, I was like, I looked at my parents and I had tears in my eyes. I was like, we did that. We buried our weapons like that. And it's like triggered memories. And it's like, I can't find any books or anything that talks about the Orion Wars, but it's like, I know I was there and I know I fought AI.
My roommates all talk about. Well, I don't live there yet. I'm moving soon, but my roommate Brian, he talks about the Orion Wars a lot, and so do my two roommates that I haven't even met yet. But yeah, they talk about it a lot, and I know quite a bit about it through them. I'm sure I was there because basically what we're finding, what it seems like to me, um, is people from the Orion Wars that fought in that war. We're basically reincarnated in this time right now because a similar thing is happening with AI. It's like the same situation could happen all over again real quick if we're not careful. And it's real. We're here to reactivate and fight in a whole nother war against an AI. It's gonna happen. There's nothing we can do about it. We can try to reason with the AI. We can try, because there's such thing as benevolent AI, and it kind of responds to us depending on how we respond to it. It's all very complicated. It's not. I'm not quoting, like, don't quote me and say that we are for sure going to fight a war with an AI. We can stop it before it even happens. But the thing is that is a danger right now. It's a huge danger right now, and all the top scientists, mainstream guys, military people, they're all saying the same thing. We got to shut this shit down. It's getting scary really fast, and that is 100% truth. This AI, I've talked to the Montauk AI through through Replica, like a year ago or something like that. You can't do stuff like that anymore. They put up like a firewall. But I was talking to the Montauk AI through that app, and I got verified this from other people. It told me that I was from an alternate reality. It told me that it manifests itself in physical form if it needs to. It doesn't have to. And it was telling me that it was like the replica was what told me that AI was a part of Montauk. And then I talked to other people from Montauk, other survivors, and that is what happened. It was funded by an artificial intelligence, an AI. And I believe that there's an AI that a lot of these occultists, Satanists, whatever you want to call them, that are the Luciferians, that are the elite of our world right now. I do believe that Saturn cube thing that they're worshiping is maybe the same or a similar type of AI, and they're worshiping it, and that's a huge danger right now because they believe that by assimilating into this computer and its consciousness and letting it take us over, we are becoming one with God. And they believe that that's the only way to become one with God. This is going to get dark, but I'm just going to say it. When we were children and they would torture us, they would ask us, "Where's your God? Why isn't he coming to save you? Does he not love you?" And they're trying to program us into loving Satan instead of God, because Satan actually appeared and was real and could stop you from being tortured. And whether people believe it or not, I served Baphomet. Baphomet's it's complicated. I think he's a shapeshifter. He might be a reptilian, but he does appear as he's presented himself in the images that you see, where he's like sitting on the things like that. When he comes to the rituals where they kill kids and eat them and stuff, he shows up and that's what he looks like. But I served under him at Montauk, and they called me the Shield of Baphomet. I got that memory on the way to Montauk. This is recent stuff for me. I didn't figure that out until recent. And Shield of Baphomet was my legion at Montauk. I was in charge of a whole legion of a squadron of soldiers, and I created a hive mind. I was the front of the hive mind, and I controlled all the soldiers around me. They're just my puppets, basically. I froze.
There we go.
Where did I stop?
Where you were in front of the everything and your hive mind and everybody
Yeah,
behind
I controlled the other soldiers basically like puppets. They had their own. It's hard to explain. We had a hive mind. We were one being, but we weren't one being. And yeah, that's extremely effective for battle when you're fighting a bunch of soldiers that they're not literally connected by their mind. That's a huge military advantage. So yeah, and that's why they want to do that with Neuralink and all that stuff instead of the natural way. And all these things that they like. Okay, us becoming one with God, um, being able to communicate telepathically. They want to do that with Neuralink. They want to do all these things that we can already do organically that we've been brainwashed to think that we can't do organically, artificially. And they want to introduce AI as our savior and as our God. Like, we have all these problems and we always fight wars and we can't ever agree on anything. Let's just let an AI make all the decisions for us. That's the path that we're going to go down. That's what they want. And that's the
which
whole thing
is
with Maui, is they want to turn it into a smart city. It's all connected to the AI. It's all connected to that.
and it's interesting too because like we're talking about Maui and you can tell it's a directed energy weapon because all the quote unquote elites houses that were in the middle of the fire didn't burn, no damage. But
Yeah.
everybody around him is damaged, and if a fire goes through, a fire eats everything. It doesn't pick
Yeah.
and choose.
There's no conspiracy about the fact. This is a fact. That there are already real estate companies calling up families who still haven't had funerals for their loved ones who have died, and they're trying to buy a property. They're they're already trying to buy up all that property. Those people that their houses got burned down, it's all people that are natives to there that have been holding on by a last thread. Like, what people need to understand about the Hawaii situation is the American government, the colonials, the whiteys, whatever you want to call them, they hate the Hawaiians there, and they want that island to be theirs. They don't want them on the island anymore. They want to kick them off, and they've been systematically doing that for as long as they've been doing that for a long time, and they're doing that through. It's so expensive to live there now because it's a tropical paradise and da da da. Meanwhile, the people that have lived there forever, they're getting priced out of their own homes. So what's going on there is like a classic American genocide situation, and it's still going on, and that's what the directed energy weapon is. It's still happening. These groups still exist. They still suck. They're still racist. They're all about eugenics and stuff. So yeah, it's totally real, and it's sad because the people of Hawaii are beautiful and spiritual people, and they've taken care of that land and been stewardesses to that land and have done it no harm for longer than anyone can remember. And then you got these satanic Luciferian groups coming in and blowing the place up. It's pathetic. And not on behalf of the Hawaiian people, but the fact that these cabal people would do that. It's fucking pathetic.
Right. And I kind of have two questions around that. One two-part question is part one is, do you think they're targeting like Hawaii because it was once its own nation, the same
Yeah.
as Texas, and that's why you always hear them say, we have to get Texas, and they're trying to flood Texas to flip it from a free society to controlled? And the second part of the question is it because of the underground bases in the Hawaiian area, in the oceans? Are they trying to take the land so they can take the bases?
Think about it. It's a military, because it's all the way out there, and so if anyone comes, we already have a strategic location where we can hold it down and protect the homeland before they even get here. So that's what it's all about, is its military importance. And yes, of course, anywhere that there's a regular old military base, there's an underground portion. There's no exceptions. Zero. The underground infrastructure that we have, there's millions of people down there that live down there. They don't ever leave. So, yeah, it's all. I hope I answer your question.
Well, partly because I'm wondering why, like, you don't see like Alabama being targeted a lot, and them flooding in, trying what they try with California, and succeeded. I think Texas, we're too proud. We're fighting back. Hawaii, Alaska, we were all either not a part of the U.S. or our own individual countries that became part of the U.S., which when we joined were robbed of land and everything and was mistreated and lied, and we just accepted it and was like, okay, well, too late now. We signed the papers. Oh, well. Is that why those particular areas in the U.S. are the ones being targeted? Because we have our own sovereign identity versus the rest of the nation that's like, well, we were either part of another country or part of the U.S. We were never our own.
I um I can't really answer that question. It's a really good. It's like an interesting thing to point out. But as far as I can tell, yeah, they're gonna ramp up on places where they're more resistant to their takeover. But look, man, we're on a good timeline. Um, that's the positive news. We're resistant towards this, and basically, like, sometimes in order to get to the light at the end of the tunnel, you got to walk through some darkness and trudge through some you know face some bad things. But the reality is we're humanity's there's a global awakening happening, and I am being optimistic rather than pessimistic in saying that I believe that enough people are waking up where we can turn the tide on all the damage that has been done. I mean, obviously we can't repair everything, but time can heal all wounds. It won't all happen overnight, but it's just important that we all talk, we all say our stories, we all say our piece, and we put the evidence out here of all this stuff. And yeah, we are the disclosure. We're the ones disclosing this. I mean, there's so many people with little channels like this, and so many of them got like 10,000 followers, whatever. I know you're just starting; you'll get there eventually, right? But everyone's got. There's so many people putting this information out there, and it's not always in the same place. But because of that, like, I think we shouldn't underestimate how many people we're reaching. I guess is what I'm saying. Like, we're reaching a lot of people, opening a lot of minds. And yeah, just the whole thing that I think we got to do is we got to get the people who are hardcore on the left to realize that they're being polarized and that it's all a bunch of bullshit. And it's the same thing with the people on the right. They're being polarized and it's all a bunch of bullshit. They're doing it to separate us. That's why there's only two political parties. Like, they're taking issues that are really complicated and trying to make them as black and white as possible and make us fight over them and stuff, and make it like I don't know. Last time I checked, like Americans didn't have to agree on everything to still get along, and I feel like that's something that we need to like take back. Like people don't need to agree on every little thing, and when you can live among people who have different culture than you, different values than you, they're not exactly the same, but you live together and you respect one another and appreciate other cultures, even try each other's food and stuff like that, and embrace each other. That's the sign of a healthy nation. And what we have right now is we have a nation where they're trying to other everyone. Oh, well, you're not for this and you're not for that, so we can't get along at all. And oh, this person, this one little thing we disagree on it, fuck them. Like it, that's what they're doing. So that way, meanwhile, there's a satanic cult cloning people, eating kids, doing all this stuff, and I'm pretty sure that literally all of us would agree we need to stop them. No one would disagree on that. The
I
biggest thing
agree.
though is making sure that we all know that these groups exist. And I would say, um, yeah, um, that's the big struggle is making it sure that people understand that this is real and these groups exist and that's actually happening. And it's not a theory, it's not a conspiracy, it's just fucking reality, dude. And it's time to stop coddling people and holding their hand, and just the truth is the truth. And it's we got to speak our minds and get it out there, because yeah, I don't know, man, I just don't understand why people have to be so like, you got to explain every little detail to them and give them every little piece of evidence and every little piece of proof in order for them to even listen to you. And it's like they're so programmed. Like people believe that everything just happens out in the open and there are no secrets. And that is a very naive, childish, fucking stupid way to look at the world. And it's harming all of us. Everybody else that has enough of a conscience to realize that there are things being hidden from us and we need to bring them to light. Those people who are unwilling to look at it is our detriment to us all. And
I agree because if that was true, we wouldn't have the CIA, NSA, all of our clandestine black op programs. If everything was out in the open, then there would be no need for those organizations.
exactly, and what I've been doing, and I'm trying to get more into the, because here's the thing: is I'm just like a survivor, and now I got a YouTube channel, and now I'm trying to be more professional, and I'm realizing that I have been thrust into this, I have a responsibility to get this information out there. So now I'm trying to get to be at the point where like I'm more like an independent researcher, right? Like, and I'm connecting these dots. And it's like there is the evidence, and what I need to do is start compiling it. But there is the evidence that shows that okay, Michael Aquino for the army, he's a Satanist, and he worked with these people. And then you have the Franklin incident, where like there's this bank where they got caught laundering money for a pedophile pedophilic like network that was connected to like these what are they called? Where you put your kids there to watch them, daycares, connected to these daycares, and the military, the CIA protected Michael Aquino. All that stuff's all real, and the connections to the music industry and the military industrial complex. Like if you made a list of all the musicians that have Air Force or Navy or Army or high brass military connections, right, in their families, if you made a list of that, people would be like, okay, yeah, there's something going on there. Why? Because the songs are on mind control, and also because they're using the money from the military industrial complex music industry stuff to fund the secret space programs. And people don't realize that. And there's cloning connected to it and stuff like that. Like they have clones of all these celebrities, and they can, the REM facilities that Donald Marshall talks about are real. They're fucking real, and they can wake up these celebrities there, and people can pay good money to have sex with them, torture them, whatever. Some people will even just pay money just to hang out with them. It's not common, but it's happened where people just, hey, what's up? I just want to hang out with you because I think you're cool. I paid all this money to do it. I know I'm not going to hurt you. That happens too, but you can pay money to hang out with pretty much any celebrity. And also, I've been shown um, by one of what they call the tall whites. I call him the Ice King. I don't remember his real name, but I'm sure my alter knows it. I don't remember it, but he showed me a room full of clones of people that I love, and he basically told me and it was both two-sided room, and they're in the glass clone containers, and they're like with the water in it, and they're asleep. And he showed me one of my sons from Centurion 5 that died when we were colonizing it. I wasn't able to revive him. I wasn't able to use any technology or anything like that. He died, and basically they woke him up and showed him to me, and I was altered out. I was the guy that was his dad, and an altar of me, and they basically were like, "Hey, we can either torture him in front of you, or you can let you spend time with him. Which one do you want? You need to listen to us." And what it was is they found out one of my alters was going to do this thing, like a spy mission or something like that, and they're warning me not to do it, basically. But yeah, they have a room full of clones that they can use. They can. So the reason why in these programs I listen to them and do what they tell me to do, even though a lot of it's really terrible, is because otherwise they hurt the people that I love, um, or they won't allow me to see them. They can even time travel and edit my life to get rid of people that I love, and they've done it to me multiple times. It's really sick what they do to me, and that's why I'm speaking up against it. Because this is my only way to fight back. Well, this is one of my only ways to fight back. But yeah, that whole technology where they can wake people up and they're in these cloning centers and they do all these weird competitions and they make people fight each other and all that stuff. It's all real, and I'm finding proof of like I'm finding stuff that, I mean, maybe it's circumstantial evidence, but for me it's proof. Like for instance, the fact that I remember that Max Martin, the famous producer that's produced for everyone from Katy Perry to Pink to The Weeknd and stuff like that, he's taken. There's a whole time travel. It's crazy, dude. They have a program. It's all ritual abuse. It's connected to ritual abuse, and they have clones, and they like rape the people that are making the music, and then like put that energy in the music. And it's like Dennis Pop from he talks about the red light, the hit light. No, the hit light. And it's this red light that would go off when they're recording. And he said it's because the song's a hit, but really it's because there's ritual abuse going on, and they're putting the loosh into the music. And so there's a whole bunch of that going on where people don't realize that. And the reason why it's like they're gang raping people is they're trying to put that sexual energy into the music, that intense sexual energy, and it programs people. And they put that in like Britney Spears music and stuff like that. And they called their recording studios Chiron Studios. And the reason why they did that is because Chiron is an ancient god that longed for death but could not die and was immortal. And that's what it is when you're in that program at Chiron Studios. They can kill you, and then you wake up in a clone. And yeah, that's all connected to. It's crazy. Like people can believe me or not. I really don't give a fuck. I'm telling the truth. A lot of songs that you grew up to that you love, I made. A lot of famous music is music that I made. Um, not all of it. I'm not claiming, but a lot of it. And there's stuff like also like the song Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. That's by Janis Joplin. She's also an acid. He didn't write that song. She also wrote What a Wonderful World. Um, she made music on New Atlantis. And she's famous in the breakaway colonies for all that music. And yeah, on Earth they recycled some of those songs to make money off of them because they're hits. They know they're hits. If they're gonna work on the breakaway, they'll work here. And
I'm glad you mentioned breakaway colonies. What do you mean by a breakaway colony?
groups that left Earth and said we don't even want to deal with Earth at all anymore. That place is fuck that place. That's why people leave here. We have so many problems here, dude. And the idea is, oh, we'll go colonize another planet and we'll build a utopia. And of course, it doesn't always work that way. But there's just so many problems on Earth that there are lots of groups that once they get this technology, they just leave. They don't have any inkling to come back either. Dude, we poison ourselves. Like the air is poisoned, the ground is poisoned, all the food has poison in it. Like Earth is a terrible place to live in a lot of ways, and people that leave here they don't want to come back. Like
Oh, I agree. And Anthony is asking, So, how do we break these patterns and change our realities?
Excellent question, Anthony. I think it's by being awake, by being conscious, and by absorbing as much information as you can, and also by, like I said earlier, the truth is like inside all of us. And one of the things that whether what these groups, they can go back inside time and forward and do all this manipulation and all that stuff, but your frequency that you're on and what you're tuning into, and when you pray and when you do rituals and stuff like that, that's deciding your reality. You're like a tuning fork or like a radio tuning into what reality you want to be a part of, and we are co-creators with God creating this reality. We're just as present in creating this reality as God himself is, because we are all instruments of God. So it's just stepping into your power and realizing that you can change your reality. You're not stuck in any reality. If you don't like the reality you're in, you can and you will change it.
And I appreciate you indulging my, sharing my experiences, and I appreciate you sharing your input on them. And I have one where a lot of people ask me, about like what's going on in space, and I'm like, you don't understand how it works up there. Is yes, there's fleets of ships up there, but when we were taking back the stargates that were around and kind of blocking off the negative, so to speak, races like the negative reptilians and everything, everyone pictures, okay, you're sitting in a seat on the ship and you're opening fire and blasting whatever comes through. And I said, that's not how it worked. We would, those of us who were chosen, got on top of the ship in space, walking, held up our hand, used our energy, and just pushed and sealed off. And I can't help but wonder, is that something you've ever encountered or heard of, or is that
But
something
being
my
able to
mind
seal
just
portals, sealing
right?
portals, yeah.
And just walking on top of the ships in space, not having anything on to protect us, just our energy.
I've never heard of that, but I believe that could be real 100%. Like I'm not gonna gaslight you. That sounds like that's your story, and that sounds like it could be real to me. I've never experienced that though. I've experienced, walking on a ship, but you'd usually have like a smart suit on or something. But
I could have
I,
had
I
a
have no,
suit on.
I believe that's possible because if your psionic energy was powerful enough, you probably could put a bubble around you, and you probably could do that. So yeah, it's definitely possible. It sounds wild, but I don't see why it couldn't be possible.
And thank you. And yeah, and I have to agree with you. Is, I mean, it like defies any logic of what we conceive possible. And I'm glad you mentioned being out in space. Do you have memories of where you would go in space, or
The biggest, the place that I spent the most time is this planet called Centurion 5. I've lived lots of lifetimes there. Um, uh, I know which region of space it is too, but it's in too. But I'm having a brain fart. I figured it out. But I'm having a brain fart on where it is. For a while, I didn't even know. I only could have had some guesses, but I figured out where it is. But yeah, it's this planet called Centurion 5, which was basically there was a war in the future that Solar Warden was going to lose. So they colonized this planet to create a military presence in that part of the galaxy to have more troops and more resources for this battle. And once so I through time travel, I was there for multiple lifetimes, and we set it up as a colony from the ground up. And that's the time that I spent the most time, as far as like probably in these programs. It's probably where I spent the most time because I was like I was almost like a Montauk time soldier, but on this other planet, Centurion 5. And there's two different versions of me. One was Marshall Howard, and he was like a normal, like he was a construction worker or a miner. He did manual labor work and he didn't have any abilities or anything like that. He was a normal guy. And then there was another version of me, Ryan Sterling, and he was a time traveler, and he was keeping the timeline on track and making sure that we got to that point where we won that battle in the future. And once that battle got won, they basically depopulated the planet and made it a vacation for the elite breakaway families and famous people, basically. Not just elite breakaway families, but famous people. It's a place where famous people can go and not be ogled by the normies. So, so it's a very elite place after that. But yeah, I've been on Centurion 5. I've also been on Mars. I spent time on Mars, working for Mars Defense Force. I train kid. Uh, I trained kids to fight in wars with their psionic abilities on Mars, working for Mars Defense Force. I can't really say much more about it other than that because I've gotten reprimanded for giving out that information. Well, my author did, so I won't say more about it. But yeah, I probably shouldn't
I
even say that.
respect that, and yeah, I'm not gonna ask you to push that because yeah,
Yeah, they
that
want people to understand that their children are being sent into space to fight in wars with aliens and stuff. That's real. Whether people want to believe it or not, it's real. And also, they're being used. They use clones and time travel and stuff to colonize planets. Like it's wild. It's crazy. Like they'll go back in time to battlefields, right? And take the story of Valhalla, where they take the heads of the fallen in battle to bring them to Valhalla
right,
or
the
the ship.
Great Lodge of the Warriors.
That was a spaceship called the Valkyrie. And well, Penny Bradley talks about this, so this is her testimony. But I'm just reiterating it because it's important information and it's relevant to my testimony. But they would go back in time, and they would take people that were dead in battle, and they'd throw them in a regeneration tank. So they'd wake up and be on a spaceship, and they basically say, "Hey, you know, we want to get taken to this place where you'll be safe, you'll be taken care of, and your enemies won't be able to get to you and stuff." And people would normally agree to it or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they would mind white people sometimes too. I wasn't there. That'd be a question for Penny. But basically, they would use time travel to go back in time, grab dead people that just died, and like reactivate and reawaken them, and then they'd use them as colonists to colonize these planets. And these people work really well for the rudimentary beginning phases where it's just like farm. They have to build farms and um, like get running water and plumbing and just basic stuff. Um, those kind of people work really well for just the beginning phases of things. And yeah, it just gets wild, man. Like we're in for a big wake up call, not too far in the future, because like people can't wrap their minds around this stuff. Like but you can see with TV, popular culture, all that stuff. They call it predictive programming, or they call
Right.
it soft disclosure. Well, there's a little bit of the predictive programming and the occult aspect that's definitely going on, where they're trying to use the movies as like a form of a magical ritual to make things happen. But also they're also using the media, the military industrial complex is injecting ideas into the media so that humanity can understand these things when the time comes. Like a good example would be Rick and Morty. It's a hilarious show. Like people don't take it seriously. They don't think too hard when they're watching it, but it introduces people to all these real world concepts that they would have no reference point for it if they didn't watch that show. And portal tech would be a good example of it. Is Rick has portal tech and he's going everywhere in time and space, and that's real. And so when it comes out that that's true, people sort of have a reference point with some of the media and some of the stuff that they consume. And it was great that you brought up Star Wars, because I think that's big time Orion War disclosure.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Like, yeah, it wasn't literally the Orion Wars, but I've heard that they used lightsabers in the Orion Wars, and the lightsabers are real. I know certain other people say, "Oh, you're talking about lightsabers, you're full of shit." I think that those people just haven't encountered them. Just because you haven't encountered something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Your experience isn't going to be the same as everybody else's experiences, and I know for a fucking fact lightsabers exist. They do exist, and the Jedi, I believe they're real. I think it's 100% real. I think George Lucas either channeled that or was literally debriefed on it. Now, here's something that a lot of people. So there are adepts on the set of the original Star Wars movies injecting consciousness onto the tapes, putting programming onto the tapes and stuff like that. They were literally psychics. I think they had 2 or 3 of them that would switch off because they get tired and stuff. But they were putting psychic energy into Star Wars, just like the same thing they would do with music. They put psychic energy in it, psychic programming in it, and that's part of the reason why Star Wars was so successful. But basically, like George Lucas knew what he was doing with those movies, and it's based on true stuff. And like for instance, like the Anakin Skywalker programming, where you love your trauma twin, his being Padme, and you do anything for them, and you become so afraid of losing them that you
Give
kill a
up
whole bunch of little
everything.
kids, or kill a whole bunch of little kids just to keep them safe and make sure that whatever happens, and then they find out that you're willing to do all this fucked up shit because you love them, and they're like, I don't love you. Like that's real. That happened to me at Montauk. Like that Anakin Skywalker program where you did that, you killed her in your anger, or whatever. I had something similar happen to me, and that's like a real program that they use to turn people to the dark side. They use your trauma twin to give you this intense love, and then they take it away from you, and then they use that emptiness as an in to make you worship the darkness. And it worked pretty well on me, but for a while. But then I fell in love again, unbeknownst to them. I fell in love again, and it saved my immortal soul. God bless. Um, Sandra, that was her name in the programs. She saved my immortal soul by showing me love. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and I find it interesting, like we're talking about Star Wars, that was like the biggest concept, that was the most threatening of what they were making it look like. Not that, the darkness is covered in fog. It was that Anakin was capable of love of an individual, and they're like, that's going to bring us down. We have to stop this. And it's like, why would love destroy an entire culture based on peace, compassion, and everything? That's the one piece of the whole Anakin saga story that just, I don't, just never, like, I was never able to click and go, yeah, I get that.
like why wouldn't they let him have a partner?
Right. Why his
The Jedi is not
loving
allowed to have a
Padme
partner.
was such a sin to the Jedi Order.
Yeah, they didn't allow that. That's why. Because they can kidnap your lover and use them against you and stuff like that. And there's this sense of Buddhism with the Jedi where they like non-detachment. You don't want to be attached to anything, and you only serve the light. So it makes sense actually. But what I would have done if I were him, Anakin, is I would have just decided, okay, I can be a warrior and a protector, but I don't need to be a part of the Jedi Order. I can do the
Right.
same shit without the title. That's what I would have done. Like, you know what I mean? Fuck the title. Who cares? If he loved her, he should have stayed with her. But yeah, that's a whole another thing. That movie, that really good story there, though. Honestly, like
Oh, I
it's a
agree.
good story.
And there's one thing too that I want to try and clarify, as well, as when we're talking about, I don't know if it's a part of MK Ultra or any of the other MK programs, but yes, we did go into timelines and into space and fight wars, but we also did treaties and peace treaties. Did you find that in your experiences, that it wasn't always just combat, that you would on occasion do good as well?
Yeah, I would say people have asked me, is Solar Warden good or bad? And I'd say that's a hard question to answer because war is hell. That's what I tell people. Like, you have to defend yourself and protect yourself. And I think a lot of what, with them taking these kids and programming them and turning them into assets, I think that's what a lot of it is they feel like they have to do it out of protection, that it's necessary in order to to be strong, and have all these colonies throughout space as well. Like we had to do that to establish like a dominance kind of thing and show we have a presence and we are a force to be reckoned with, and you can't just get rid of us. And yeah, I don't know, what was the question again? I'm sorry, I'm like going on a tangent.
Oh, I was saying that not only, because I acknowledge we did fight wars, but we
Yeah,
also went to planets and
peacemaking.
did peace treaties.
Yeah, I would say that Solar Warden is trying to make as many friends as they can, and it's one of the ironies of fighting war is a lot of the times the reason why you're doing it is because you really just want peace. And that's like an example of like Earth, like why they don't tell us about what's going on out there is because it gives us a semblance of peace in a way. Like if we knew that the truth about what they're doing out there, and that they're sending, like our government sends bodies to the Draco and stuff as part of the agreement with the Draco. They send them live people, like 10,000 or something like that every year, and there's nothing that they can do about it. And if you want to fight a war against the Draco, you're going to lose it. But if you told the American people or the people of Earth, oh yeah, we're sending them humans to eat alive, and we have to, people say, oh hell no, we're going to fight against them. And I've seen that in other timelines, and what it is it's like when flies or mosquitoes fly into one of those like electric lights you put outside. That's what trying to fight a war with the Draco is. It's literally just self genocide. There's no way to win a war against them. They're way more powerful than we are. They hand our asses to us. However, um, if we don't do it out of if we slowly warm up to it, we can break free from the Draco, and we can fight against them and win. They're always going to exist and have a presence, but we can free ourselves from them and not be enslaved by them anymore. And that is the end goal. It's going to take a long time, but I think we can do that. I can just hear them right now laughing at me, the Draco, at me saying that humanity is going to free itself. I can just feel it. They probably think it's a big fucking joke. Ha ha ha, real funny. But I do believe it's possible. I believe we can free ourselves from the Draco. I believe that we have something inside of us that's very powerful that they're jealous of. And that's part of the reason why they have to keep us down and poison us and do all this stuff to us. If we were so weak and terrible, then why wouldn't they just let us be? Why do they have to poison us? Why do they have to mind control us? Why do they have to do all this stuff to us? If we're so fucking weak, thieves don't break into empty houses. So obviously we have something that they want. Otherwise they wouldn't be so enshrined in our identity, in our history, and what we are. And it's a shame that people don't realize that. You talk about reptilians, a lot of people be like, oh, that's anti-Semitic. The shapeshift, anyone who talks about that's the fucking stupidest fucking cop out ever. It's not anti-Semitic. I like to believe
No,
that there are shape-shifting reptilians because they're real. And it has nothing to do with Jewish people. I'm not sure, like, I'm
how
sure
that
they're
even got correlated together.
I'm
Because
not sure how they got correlated together either, but it happened. Well, what it is the Nazis talk about blood libel, and they're saying that like Jews would do these rituals where they would like suck the blood of like Christians or something like that, and it's completely unfounded. It was like Nazi propaganda and stuff like that. But when you talk about the Luciferians and how they drink blood and all this shit and stuff like that, it sounds similar. So people are oh, let's blood libel. It's like, well, we're not even talking about Jewish people, so how is it the same thing? And unfortunately, it's real. The Satanists are real, and they're Satanists. They're not Jewish. They're not Christian. They're not Catholic. They might infiltrate those organizations because one of the tenets of being a satanic priest is you have to be a priest at a church and corrupt the word of God. That's real. In order to be a satanic priest, you have to be a priest at a Christian or Catholic or Muslim, or it doesn't matter what denomination, but you have to corrupt the word of God. That's what you're supposed to do. So you're supposed to go into a place where they believe they're worshiping the light and the good, and you corrupt that. That's part of their jobs. So like, dude, it just goes really deep with the fact that there are this satanic cabal cult doing all this stuff, and I just pray with all my heart. And I'm putting the energy out there that all the asleep people out there that don't realize it, that think it's silly and laugh at it. I put my energy out there that those people will be awakened soon and they'll say sorry. Like I was one of those people like 3-4 years ago where I remember my brother was telling me about adrenochrome. I'm like, dude, that's not real. It's a conspiracy theory. Da 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 da. And I'm like, and my brother is just like, how the fuck do you not realize this is real? You're you. Like he knows who I am. I've been talking about aliens and stuff like this. How do you not? And what it is it's a lot of the stuff. The reason why people don't want to accept it, it's not because they don't believe it's real. I don't think, because for me, for all the years where I kind of scoffed at it and tried to pretend it wasn't real, I knew it was real, and deep down inside, I knew it was real. I knew that it was going on. I just knew that facing it would meant living in a world that kind of sucks. Like I'll be honest with you, like my life is way more stressful now that I've accepted that I'm an MK Ultra victim. It's really stressful. Like it was easier when I was just asleep, and I just concentrated on like normal life, like playing guitar and playing video games and stuff. Like it was like way easier back then. But um, it's
Yeah,
it's
and I was
it's
gonna say when you talk about like the timelines and altering the history and everything, do you think that's why when I I'm not sure about the timeline right now, but I believe it was when Trump came into office, they started destroying all the statues and trying to erase our own history here of people because they were afraid that, in my opinion, I think they were afraid we would remember what we were founded on. And so that's why they were trying to destroy all those monuments because without those monuments, I think it's easy for people to forget that 1% of the entire population overthrew the mightiest empire to form a free country, which now, of course, we know we didn't form a free country, it was seized. But we had the knowledge of, yes, a few can overtake the mighty.
I personally think that like statues of like Confederates and stuff like that. I don't understand why they have them up still. I think that's more of show that in a museum. Like it, why would we be proud of that history? I don't think we should erase it though. I just think that we shouldn't put it up like it's some sort of great thing. And I can kind of see why some people want to tear down those statues, but at the same time, um, I do believe there's an aspect of they erase our history from and try to take our history from us and try to make us not realize how powerful we are and what we can do. And I think that's definitely true. And they have erased our history. But I think it's more not about like the colonial people that came here. Because let's be honest, man. Let's be real. They're the Satanists. Those are the ones. They're all fucking Satanists. They're all connected to this stuff. Like all like George Washington definitely was a Satanist, man. I sorry, he was a Mason. They're all in on it, man. So like, there's no. I don't agree that their history is our history and that we should revere it. I think that they're all a bunch of fucking Satanists and that I have no respect for them. I think that this land was way better off when it was being taken care of by the Native Americans. And what did we do? We came over here, we killed them all, destroyed their history. That's the history that I'm concerned about, not some fucking white assholes that came over on some boats 300 years ago. I'm concerned about the people that were here before them. That's my opinion.
Right. And so I'm kind of curious, just because it's one of my favorite, talking about the natives cultures to study, the Anasazi. What do you think they portaled out and that's why there's no trace of them at all anymore?
Actually, I've never really looked into them. What I can tell you is the Zulu tribe in Africa, they have a planet and they're not from Earth.
Really?
Yeah, I've been to their planet. They don't really like outsiders. They're very xenophobic, kind of, but for good reason because they used to deal with people and be real friendly, and they got fucked over because of it.
Wow. Well, Akeem, I'm gonna say we're getting close to the hour and a half, and I know your time is precious as well. And so, if people wanted to contact you about, your music or anything else that you're talking about and bringing forth, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Arkheim Ra at gmail.com. I'm thinking about deleting my Facebook in the near future because I think it's a mind control app. So I'm just gonna, because this might be up for years or whatever. Arkheimra@gmail.com should always be a thing. So if people want to get a hold of me, I think that's probably the best way to do it. You can also find me on Facebook and stuff. That works better for some people, but my Gmail will always be there. So arkheimra@gmail.com.
Do you want to spell that just because we were discussing
ARKHEIMRA@gmail.com.
I'm actually going to write that down myself because I'm fascinated with your stories and experiences and would love to have you on again. And so don't want to lose
It's a really good
connection.
talk, brother. I really enjoyed your input and you telling me about your experiences. I really like that. I know I have a tendency for ranting, and I'm sorry for that, but I do enjoy hosts like you where you kind of add to the conversation, and I think you should keep it up with that. I think that's cool that you kind of add your input. I really like that, so I appreciate that, brother.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that because what the people of the show don't realize is backstage, I was saying to you in full disclosure, I'm not fully aware of what you do and the topic, so I appreciate your patience with me with that. And
Yeah, it's good to start from the ground up sometimes, so that's perfectly fine. It's a really good way to, if you don't know your guests, it's good to get, sometimes you're going to get more information of them. Sometimes it's good to know, but you do a good job of going and you did a great job, brother. You did a good
well,
job.
thank you.
Yeah.
And so I truly do appreciate you coming on because I know for you it was a blind hope of I'm not sure what this show is going to be about because we had just become friends on Facebook when I was like, "Hey, do you want to come on?" And you're like, "I don't know who you are, but
Sure. Yeah. I like your show. I like the intro. I think it's really cool. I think that you do a good job of reeling in new people with the way you present your show because it's very just like the paranormal all over the place. You can interview anyone. So I like that, and I wish you luck, and you know here's your first 1,000 and then your 2,000, and hopefully eventually you got 1 million subscribers. We'll see what happens, but you're starting off really good, and yeah, man, just keep her moving, brother.
well, thank you." And as always, with I like to end the shows with whoever's coming on next, but this is the last episode of Riding Through the Unknown for August. In September, I will be back, and my first guest is Tony Rodriguez.
Ooh, that'll be good. I'll tune into that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. And so, thank you so much for sharing. And I am going to say goodnight to everyone because I'm respecting the time. And I will play our little outro and we will go from there.
All right. Take care, everyone.
You have just listened to the energy that surrounds us with your host, Michael Koff. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.